Hi, I'm Angela Fehr. You know, 90% of my painting time is spent painting here in my studio. It's a nice safe place, out of the weather, no distractions, and it has all my supplies close at hand. You know, even though I'm a professional watercolor painter, I teach students all over the world, there are certain things that I tend to avoid, and one of them is plein air painting. I struggle with many of the same feelings you might be feeling. Getting outdoors with a sketchbook and paintbrush is a vulnerable thing. First of all, you might feel self-conscious about being seen by others and maybe having your artwork judged by them. Often there are distractions, a lot of distractions. There's insects, there's weather, there's the changing light as you sit and paint, and the shadows, change over time so that what you started painting isn't what you see when you finish. And all of these pose a challenge to the plein air painter, and often they keep us from getting outside at all. In just a few months, I'm heading to Italy for an art and travel workshop. We are going to be walking daily, exploring this beautiful country and painting what we see, putting down in our sketchbooks the views that we're experiencing. And I want to do this well. I want my sketchbook practice to be one that is not intimidating, that's rich and meaningful and makes my trip feel so much more significant. I want to be present in Italy, not experiencing it from behind the lens of a camera, but actually immersing myself in my environment and painting that. So I want to share with you a few of the strategies I'm bringing with me on this trip of a lifetime. And if you're interested in joining me in Italy, there are a few spaces left. And there's a link to all the information about that workshop in the description below the video. Right now, though, I want to take a look at my plein air kit. You know, for a long time, I thought that having the right plein air supplies would make plein air painting just that much easier for me. I think this is common with people who struggle with an area that we think that we just need to be more prepared. And so I bought a lot of supplies. I have actually here some of my plein air workshop products. I've got these little pouches where I keep plein air painting supplies, and you can see I have 3 here. These are just 3 of the many that I've kind of put together in hopes that having painting supplies, in a pouch or a zippered bag would help me to get out and paint. So we bring the things that watercolor artists need: paper, water containers, paint, and brushes, and we make sure we pack those. I also have at least 2 plein air painting easels that I thought would make plein air painting easier for me. And you know what? It really doesn't. They're bulky to carry, they're heavy, and they're awkward to set up. I can never remember how to put those darn things together when I get out on location. Meanwhile, the light is changing and the wind is blowing and everything, is conspiring to make painting harder for me. So I realized as I spent some time with plein air painters that having lots of supplies is not the way to go. In fact, a simple rough kit is really all that you need. And like I said, you need your paint, you need your water, you need your brushes, and some paper. That's it. Focus on making your supplies as compact as possible, and you're much more likely to bring them along with you. But let's talk about what actually goes in the sketchbook. And this is something that I thought was important to cover because I noticed that this is one of the first sketchbooks I ever filled, and I'm so proud of it. I open the sketchbook and I see memories. It brings me right back to the places I was in when I painted these scenes. One thing I have always done is when I start a new sketchbook, I don't start it on the first page. I did on this one because I didn't know better. But now I know you don't start your sketchbook on the first page because that brings huge pressure to make your sketchbook, that make that first page perfect. And it's just not a great environment to start a sketchbook in. So I really try to start in the middle, takes the pressure off. And then, I can then later, when I feel a little more relaxed, move into that first page. Another thing I did to help me was, take the pressure off, don't start on the first page. And then the second thing I did was I allowed my ugly paintings, the ones I didn't feel great about, to be a space where I could write notes. And so here I have some quotes from a watercolor or an artist book that I was reading, Nancy Hillis's The Artist's Journey. And I'll link that in the description below the video because it's an amazing book. But having these little inspirational quotes here took the pressure off the painting to be beautiful when I look at it. And that reminds me that I can enjoy the words. I'm in a development process, and so not all the paintings in my sketchbook need to be beautiful. One thing I discovered is that just because I'm in a place doesn't mean I need to paint exactly what I see. And this is something that has worked for me as a watercolor artist. I'm an intuitive artist. I want to paint what my heart wants to paint. And sometimes sitting on location, looking around, the environment will bring emotions to me and ideas to me that aren't necessarily exactly what I see. One day I was sitting on the beach looking out over the landscape and trying to paint it and feeling frustrated. And usually when I feel frustrated, I put more paint on than I should. And I actually went backwards, see, in my sketchbook, skipping around, and I painted, instead of the beach, sitting on the beach, I painted the flowers that we were seeing outside of our hotel room. And these had that tropical magic that felt so special to me. And I was painting Costa Rica, but not necessarily painting what I saw. But as I flip through these pages, I get to visit there again. I get to come back to Costa Rica. And I love that. So I freed myself from the need to paint exactly what I see, and instead I can paint what I remember and feel that's prompted by my location. This one brings me back to shouts and cries of soccer players as I sat on the soccer field watching my son play soccer. And that was a part of my life for many summers, was enjoying those soccer games and experiencing them with my son and my daughter. These paintings bring me to the river and sitting by the river. Freedom here not to finish it, not to finish a painting, but to just work on capturing little pieces of the story. And here I love these little ripple marks in the water. They tell a story. And then, some of them feel a little clumsy and unfinished. And then we have one that comes together and, really brings me back to that place. And I recognize that just as in my painting process, development means there are going to be pages in my sketchbook that are not beautiful. And I just get to experience and tell a bit of the story. It doesn't always work for me to paint on location. Often, if I'm with my family, I'm chasing kids and trying to keep up with my teenagers. And so it's always nice when I get to stop long enough to jot down visual notes from a location where we've been. This was a hike we did up into the mountains to beautiful Windfall Lake. And looking at this painting, I'm brought, even though it's unfinished, there's no detail over here. I'm brought right back to that shore of that lake. To the way sound carries when you're up at that higher elevation. It carries across the water, and we could actually hear people talking, across the lake, and almost make out what they were saying. And sometimes with a minimum of supplies, you can get a lot accomplished. This one I didn't have any colors with me, but I had some watercolor graphite and jotted down some visual notes that served to help me complete a full-size painting of this particular scene. Having a sketchbook and painting in your sketchbook creates for you a visual journal of where you've been and what you've experienced, and it really brings you back there. Here I have kayakers. I was waiting for my family as they kayak down the river, and having the date here, having a little snapshot of the location. I just feel like I feel myself in this place better than if I was simply snapping a photo, because I have taken deliberate time to notice my surroundings, to focus on them, and to try to capture just a little bit of them in my visual journal. And that's been such an adventure for me, and it was one that I needed to free me from needing to make a perfect painting, from, oh, I even have a page left, look at that, from needing to finish a painting. Because a sketchbook painting, you know, is very rarely one that you like to keep them in the sketchbooks. You don't usually take them out. And so seeing them in here, it's a little timeline of my life, where I've been, and it brings me back to that time when I was in this place, being fully present in it. You know, that's the main thing. And I think that's why plein air painters are so passionate about what they do. When we paint, and if you're a painter, you know this feeling of being immersed in a subject, of savoring a special place to you by painting it. And I do that in my studio all the time, and I feel like my life is richer because I linger over memories when I'm painting them with my paintbrush. But going outdoors with my sketchbook and painting in that moment, I think that brings that essence of that element of lingering to the actual happening moment, to, you know, the precursor to that memory. And so then I come to my sketchbook, or I come to that next painting, that development painting, with already a model of presence. And I've been there, I've done the thing where you bring your camera and everywhere you go you're trying to snap reference photos. And I need those reference photos in order to paint my scene. But I also see huge value in taking that time to pause and be fully present in my environment. Painting for me is a way of being fully present in whatever moment I happen to be in. In this moment, I'm focused on just the painting and how to serve it. And in plein air painting, I get to develop that that culture, that model of presence in my surroundings and in my circumstances outside of the studio. And I think that's really what's exciting me about this opportunity to travel to Italy, to walk with my sketchbook, to stop and paint and linger over my environment. It's not the travel itinerary where it's see this and see this and see this, bang, bang, bang. It's really slowing down, forgetting about time a little bit, and being fully present in an amazing and beautiful new space. What a wonderful thing a sketchbook can do for us if we're willing to be courageous enough to pack it and use it. Give yourself permission to not make that perfect painting, but just to create and capture those memories with the skills you have right now. I'm Angela Fehr. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I do try to share watercolor tips that will inspire you and help you to create your own thriving creative practice so you can become your own favorite artist.